My childhood bully turned out to be my father's secret child, and suddenly money was involved. Money was never supposed to be part of the story, at least not at first. When I think back to my childhood, the memories that surface aren't about allowances or college funds or inheritance. They're about hallways, lockers, the sound of laughter cutting sharp enough to leave bruises you couldn't see. They're about learning early that power isn't always loud. Sometimes it's systematic, persistent, and aimed straight at you. Her name was Sadie. I met her in kindergarten. Same classroom, same alphabet rug, same birthday month. From the outside, nothing about her stood out. Average kid, average smile, but her brother, Ethan, was 2 years older, and he made it his mission to ruin first grade for me. Ethan didn't just bully me, he invested in it. 6 months straight, every recess, every bus ride, he recruited friends, spread rumors, cornered me near the bathrooms. I became his favorite target, which meant consistency, efficiency, relentlessness. My mom noticed fast. She didn't just complain, she escalated. Meetings with the principal, paper trails, emails. By spring, Ethan was suspended twice, flagged for targeting younger kids. His reputation followed him. That's when Sadie took over. Same playbook, new operator. She mocked me publicly, whispered things that made teachers look the other way, followed me online as soon as social media became a thing. My mom worked overtime to keep us separated, different classes, different lunch periods, different schedules. It helped, but it never stopped. For 10 years, Sadie was a constant tax on my peace. By high school, the harassment went digital, anonymous messages, burner accounts. One night, a message popped up on my phone that simply read, "Do everyone a favor and kill yourself." I saved it, screenshotted it, reported it. Nothing happened. By then, I'd learned something important about systems, schools, families, institutions. They protect whoever causes the least inconvenience. And Sadie, she always knew how to stay just inside the lines. I turned 18 last year. I thought I was done with her. Graduation was coming, college decisions, a clean break. Then the DNA test happened. It started as a fight between my parents. My dad, Mark, had been distant for months. Late nights, locked phone, weird withdrawals from joint accounts that he brushed off his business expenses. My mom knew something was wrong, not emotionally, but financially. That's how she caught him. Turns out, Mark had been quietly sending money to Sadie's mom, monthly transfers, tuition help, medical bills, emergency expenses. At first, he claimed charity, guilt, old friendship. Then the truth came out. Sadie was his biological daughter, conceived during an affair while my mom was pregnant with me.
That single fact detonated everything. My parents' marriage didn't just crack, it collapsed under the weight of timelines, receipts, and math that couldn't be explained away. 11 months ago, divorce papers were filed, assets were frozen, lawyers got involved, and suddenly, Sadie wasn't just my bully. She was a financial variable. I learned more in that week than I had in my entire life about how money and blood are connected. Sadie's mom had never been married to my dad. She had been with another man, Ethan's father, who married her when Sadie was 2. Sadie grew up believing he was her dad, but he treated her differently. Less affection, more rules, quiet resentment. According to my dad's family, who suddenly had a lot of opinions, Sadie's cruelty toward me made sense now. Trauma response, they called it, lashing out. What they didn't mention was the money, because once paternity was confirmed, the question started. Was Sadie entitled to child support retroactively? Did she have a claim on my dad's estate? Would my college fund be split? What about trusts, insurance beneficiaries, property? My mom shut that down fast. She wasn't angry at Sadie. She was done with her. There is no world, my mom said to my dad's family, where I pretend this girl didn't terrorize my child for a decade and then reward her with proximity or inheritance. I agreed. I told everyone the same thing. Sadie might share DNA with me, but she would never be my sister, not emotionally, not socially, not financially. That didn't go over well. My dad's parents stopped talking to him completely. At first, they rallied around me and my mom. Moral clarity is easy at the beginning. But months passed, legal negotiations dragged on, and their tone changed. They started saying words like forgiveness, healing, family unity. Translation, let's make this cheaper and less awkward. Because here's the part nobody said out loud. The longer this stayed hostile, the more expensive it got. Lawyers charge by the hour. Estates don't like ambiguity, and the presence of an unacknowledged child complicates everything. Sadie was now being invited to family events. Her first official invitation was Christmas. My dad's side insisted it would be good for everyone. They said it would show maturity, that it might help Sadie feel accepted. I told them the truth. Seeing her would ruin my Christmas. Pretending I didn't hate her would cost more than I was willing to pay. They said she was my sister. I said she was my father's affair child and the reason my parents' finances were being torn apart. They told me to think about what she'd been through. I told them I'd already paid my share. And then I realized something that made my stomach drop. This wasn't about healing. This was about positioning. Because once Sadie was publicly accepted, the next conversation wouldn't be emotional. It would be financial. And if I showed up to that Christmas table, I wouldn't just be forgiving a bully. I'd be signaling that I was willing to share what came next. What I didn't know yet was that my dad had already made one financial move involving Sadie, and I was about to find out the hard way.
The transfer I wasn't supposed to see. I didn't find out about the money the way people do in movies. No dramatic confession, no teary apology. I found out because my mom asked me to help her scan documents for her lawyer. Our dining table had turned into a war room. Manila folders, bank statements, printed emails, highlighted timelines. Divorce isn't emotional first, it's forensic. You reconstruct a marriage through transactions. That's when I saw her name. Sadie M. Not handwritten, not a note, typed, repeated. Monthly transfers, same amount, same date, for years. Not small either. At first, I assumed it was child support, something ordered recently, maybe temporary while lawyers sorted things out. But the dates didn't line up. These payments started before the DNA test, before the confrontation, before the divorce filing. My dad had been paying quietly, strategically. I asked my mom what the account was. She didn't answer right away. She just exhaled, slow, controlled, like someone who'd already screamed herself hoarse and was now operating on fumes. That, she said, tapping the page, is why your college fund is frozen. The words didn't land immediately. My college fund wasn't some abstract idea. It was real. A 529 plan my parents had been contributing to since I was born. It was part of the narrative of my life. Work hard, go to school, graduate debt-free. A promise. Now it was collateral damage. My dad's lawyer had argued that since there was an undisclosed dependent, all discretionary accounts tied to future planning had to be reviewed, including mine. Because Sadie's lawyer, yes, Sadie had a lawyer, was asking questions. How long did Mark know? Why had payments begun early? What other assets existed? Were there trusts, insurance policies, beneficiaries? In legal terms, Sadie wasn't just a person. She was a claim. That night, I confronted my dad. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I asked one question. How long? He sat on the edge of the couch like a man waiting for a verdict. He said, since she was 12. My chest tightened. That was around the time the cyber harassment got worse. While I was screenshotting messages telling me to kill myself, my dad was wiring money to her mother. Why? I asked. He said the word I now hate most in the English language, responsibility. He explained that Sadie's stepfather had always treated her as less than, that her household was tense, that her brother dominated the family dynamic. He said he felt guilty, that he wanted to help quietly without blowing up his marriage. So you funded her life in secret while she made mine hell? He didn't deny it. What he did say changed everything. He admitted, I set up an account for her, for college, just in case. I laughed, not because it was funny, because it was insane. He'd set aside money from my bully,
a private safety net, an invisible parachute. Where did the money come from? I asked. He hesitated. That's how I knew the answer before he said it. From my bonuses, and sometimes from savings. Our savings.
Money my mom thought was being invested. Money that padded retirement projections. Money that helped justify decisions like vacations we didn't take and upgrades we postponed. That account, the one Sadie didn't even know existed until recently, had grown. Quietly, efficiently, just like her bullying. When the DNA results came back, Sadie's lawyer moved fast, faster than I expected. They argued that since my dad had already established financial support, it proved acknowledgement, intent, ongoing obligation, which meant leverage. Now the Christmas invitation made sense. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about optics. If Sadie showed up as family, it strengthened her position. Public acceptance mattered in court. Family photos, witnesses, testimony that she wasn't hidden or rejected. My presence would be proof of unity. I refused. That's when the pressure intensified. My dad's sister called me, then my grandparents. Money my mom thought was being invested. Money that padded retirement projections. Money that helped justify decisions like vacations we didn't take and upgrades we postponed. That account, the one Sadie didn't even know existed until recently, had grown. Quietly, efficiently, just like her bullying. When the DNA results came back, Sadie's lawyer moved fast, faster than I expected. They argued that since my dad had already established financial support, it proved acknowledgement, intent, ongoing obligation, which meant leverage. Now the Christmas invitation made sense. This wasn't about reconciliation. It was about optics. If Sadie showed up as family, it strengthened her position. Public acceptance mattered in court. Family photos, witnesses, testimony that she wasn't hidden or rejected. My presence would be proof of unity. I refused. That's when the pressure intensified. My dad's sister called me, then my grandparents, then cousins I barely spoke to, all with the same script. She's been through a lot. You're both victims. Money isn't everything. Funny how people say that when it isn't theirs on the line. My mom shut them down brutally. She reminded them of the messages Sadie sent me, the decade of harassment, the therapy bills, the nights she sat on my bed making sure I didn't believe what Sadie wrote. There will be no shared holidays, my mom said, and no shared inheritance. That word inheritance hung in the air, because here's the truth no one wanted to say out loud. If Sadie was acknowledged now, she wouldn't just get support, she'd get a future stake. My dad owned property, retirement accounts, life insurance, interest in a small business, all things that used to point in one direction. Now they were branching, splitting, diluting. A week before Christmas, my dad tried one last time. He told me he'd amended his will. He said he'd made things fair. I asked him what that meant. He said Sadie would receive a percentage, but that my portion was still substantial. That's when something snapped. Because fairness, I realized, is often just a word people use to justify redistribution without consent. I told him I wouldn't attend Christmas. I told him I wouldn't attend any event where Sadie was present. And I told him that every dollar he'd sent her, without acknowledging what she did to me, was a dollar he'd taken from our relationship. He said I was punishing the wrong person. I said I was finally protecting my interests. What I didn't know yet, what none of us knew, was that Sadie had already made her own financial move, and it wasn't quiet. 2 days later, my mom's lawyer called with urgent news. Sadie had filed a legal request that could freeze my dad's estate entirely. When lawyers replaced Christmas. The call from my mom's lawyer came 2 days before Christmas. I remember because we were in the kitchen and my mom was pretending to care about grocery lists, even though neither of us planned to celebrate. The phone rang. She answered, and I watched her face change in real time, jaw tightening,
eyes narrowing, shoulders stiffening like she was bracing for impact. She put the phone on speaker. That's how I learned that Sadie had officially entered the war. Her lawyer had filed a motion requesting a temporary freeze on my dad's estate and discretionary assets until paternity-related claims were resolved. Not just future inheritance, everything. Retirement accounts, investment portfolios, property transfers, even beneficiary changes, including the college fund that was supposed to be mine. The lawyer explained it calmly, clinically, like this was routine, because for them it was. From a legal standpoint, Sadie's argument was simple and brutal. My dad had knowingly supported her financially for years, establishing dependency and intent. Now that paternity was confirmed, any attempt to lock down assets could be seen as bad faith, which meant no one got anything until the courts decided what was fair. Christmas was officially canceled. My dad tried damage control immediately. He called, texted, emailed, long messages about misunderstandings, about lawyers escalating things unnecessarily, about how Sadie didn't mean for it to go this far. I didn't respond, because for the first time, I understood something important about Sadie. She wasn't just reacting emotionally, she was strategizing. While my dad's family framed her as a wounded kid seeking belonging, her legal team was treating this like a financial realignment, which is exactly what it was. I found out more details over the next few days. Sadie's lawyer wasn't asking for a specific amount yet. They were asking for recognition, formal legal acknowledgement that Sadie was an heir in principle. Once that was established, numbers could come later. Percentages, trust structures, tax implications. The family wanted me to see her as a sister. The courts wanted to see her as a stakeholder. That difference mattered. My mom, meanwhile, went quiet. That's when she's most dangerous. She started pulling records, therapy bills, school reports, emails to administrators, screenshots of cyber harassment. She organized them into folders labeled by year. 10 years of evidence. Not to punish Sadie emotionally, to quantify damages. Her lawyer explained the strategy to us. If Sadie was claiming financial recognition as a harmed child, my mom could argue that her actions caused measurable harm to me. Mental health treatment, educational disruption, long-term impact. 2 children, 1 father. Limited resources. Courts love symmetry. But what tipped things further was something we didn't expect. Sadie reached out to me directly, not with an apology, with a message. It came through an email address I didn't recognize at first. No insults, no threats, just this. I don't want to fight you. I just want what's fair. Fair. That word again.
I didn't respond immediately. I forwarded it to my mom's lawyer. He replied with one sentence: "Do not engage. Anything you say becomes evidence." A week later, I learned Sadie had been accepted into an out-of-state private college. Tuition? Brutal. Housing? Expensive. Aid? Limited. Suddenly, the timing of everything made sense. This wasn't just about identity. It was about funding a future, and mine was in the way. My dad finally managed to corner me in person at a neutral location, his lawyer's office. Glass walls, neutral colors, a space designed to make conflict look civilized. He looked older, smaller. He told me Sadie felt rejected, that she blamed me for refusing to acknowledge her, that my absence at Christmas hurt her deeply. I told him the truth. I said that for 10 years, Sadie hurt me daily without remorse, that now, when money was involved, she wanted peace. I said peace negotiated under financial pressure wasn't peace, it was leverage. He asked me what I wanted. I said I wanted my college fund unfrozen. I wanted written guarantees that my future wouldn't be diluted retroactively. I wanted boundaries. His lawyer shifted in his chair,
because what I was asking for would require Sadie to accept limits, and limits are the one thing people don't ask for when they think they're owed. The meeting ended without resolution. That night, my mom told me something she'd been holding back. My dad had quietly tried to move assets into a trust earlier in the year, before the DNA test went public. His lawyer had warned him it could look like concealment. Sadie's lawyer found it. That's why the freeze happened so fast. My dad hadn't just cheated emotionally, he'd misplayed financially, and now everyone was paying for it. 2 days later, Sadie filed an amended claim. This time, it wasn't just about support. It was about equal standing. She wanted to be listed formally as my dad's child in all future estate planning documents. Equal weight, equal voice, equal share. When my mom read the filing, she didn't cry. She smiled, slow and sharp. "Good," she said. "Now is honest." Because if Sadie wanted equality, she'd have to face something she hadn't yet accounted for, the full cost of what she'd done to me. And for the first time since all of this began, I realized something. Sadie might win money, but she was about to lose the one thing she'd always controlled, the narrative. The next court filing wouldn't come from Sadie's lawyer, it would come from ours, and it would put a dollar amount on 10 years of abuse. Putting a price on pain. I used to think pain was immeasurable. That's what people say when they want to sound deep. You can't put a price on suffering. But the legal system disagrees. Courts put prices on pain every single day. They call it damages, losses, impact. And in part 4 of this nightmare, that's exactly what my mom's lawyer did. He sent us a draft before filing. It was 47 pages long. The title alone made my stomach flip. Statement of harm and financial impact resulting from sustained harassment and psychological abuse. 10 years of my life converted into line items. Therapy invoices, medication costs, missed academic opportunities, documented emotional distress, parental work absences to intervene with schools, even projected future costs, continued counseling, potential career impact, stress-related health risks. At the bottom was a number. I won't say the exact amount, but it was 6 figures. Suddenly, Sadie wasn't just a claimant, she was a potential liability. When the filing hit, the tone changed immediately. My dad's lawyer called first, not angry, not defensive, careful. He said this reframed things, that escalation helped no one, that maybe there was room for discussion. Translation, this just got expensive. Sadie's lawyer responded 2 days later. They argued intent. They claimed Sadie's actions stemmed from untreated trauma, that she was a minor for much of the harassment, that responsibility ultimately traced back to my dad's deception and her unstable household. In other words, don't punish the kid, blame the system. The problem was, the system had receipts. Screenshots don't care about motives, and neither do judges. That week, I was deposed. 3 hours in a sterile conference room, a court reporter typing every word, lawyers on both sides pretending to be neutral while waiting for me to slip. They asked me to recount specific incidents, date, words used, how it made me feel. They asked whether Sadie ever apologized. She hadn't. They asked if I ever provoked her. I hadn't. They asked if I believed her actions affected my academic or emotional development. I said yes, because they did. When it was over, I felt hollow, like I'd monetized my own memories. But something else happened too. For the first time, Sadie lost control of the framing. She wasn't the secret child anymore. She was the aggressor. And money hates uncertainty. Behind the scenes, negotiations started. Not mediation, not reconciliation.
Risk management. My dad's retirement projections were being recalculated, Estate planners got involved. Insurance carriers reviewed policies. Trust advisors ran scenarios. Every version had the same conclusion. If this went to trial, everyone lost something. The only question was how much. Sadie's lawyer floated a settlement concept. No admission of wrongdoing, no public acknowledgement of harassment, but a financial agreement that capped exposure. In return, Sadie would withdraw the estate freeze request and accept a defined, limited trust separate from my dad's primary estate. Ring-fenced, controlled, finite. It was the first time her side used the word limit. My dad wanted me to accept it immediately. He said it was reasonable, that it protected my future, that it avoided dragging this out for years. I asked one question. Does she ever have to say she's sorry? Silence. Legally, apologies complicate settlements. Emotionally, they cost nothing, yet no one offered one. That told me everything. I said I'd agree to the financial structure, but only if two conditions were met. First, my college fund would be fully restored and insulated in writing beyond future claims. Second, Sadie would have no access to shared family spaces, events, or narratives involving me. No forced holidays, no photos, no "we're siblings now" rebranding. My dad's lawyer said that second condition wasn't financial. I told him it absolutely was, because access is value, presence is leverage, and I was done giving it away for free. Negotiations stalled. Sadie's side pushed back hardest on the second condition. She wanted acknowledgement, visibility, inclusion. That was the currency she still craved. Then something unexpected happened. Sadie broke silence publicly, not with my name, but with her story. A vague post on social media about discovering her true identity, about abandonment, about finally claiming her place. No mention of bullying, no mention of harm, just a soft, focused narrative positioning herself as brave and wronged. People rallied, comments filled with support. You deserve better. Blood matters. Stay strong. I watched it spread, and I realized what she was doing. She was trying to raise the reputational cost of excluding her, because if money couldn't force access, shame might. That night, my mom said something I'll never forget. She thinks this is about winning, she said. But winning isn't getting more, it's losing less. The next morning, our lawyer filed a response. It included one additional exhibit, a compilation, screenshots, messages, dates, platforms, not posted publicly, filed quietly. The kind of document that doesn't trend, but terrifies attorneys. Because it meant one thing. If Sadie wanted the spotlight, the truth could follow. And truth is very expensive. The final negotiation would happen in one room, one afternoon, and someone would walk out with less than they expected. By the time I decided to cut Sadie out completely, I knew there would be consequences. Christmas was approaching, and Dad's side of the family kept insisting I attend, claiming it would help Sadie heal and bring our family together. But all I could feel was the rage and betrayal, not just at Sadie, but at my father for putting me in this impossible position. I had spent over a decade trying to survive her torment, online harassment, rumors, manipulations, and now they wanted me to act like none of it happened because she shared DNA with me? I couldn't. I wouldn't. Instead, I focused on myself, on my own financial independence and security. Being 18, I just started my first real job, and the money I earned was mine. No one could manipulate or take it from me. I set up a budget that allowed me to save aggressively, prioritizing investments that could secure my future even if my family ties fell apart completely. I opened a high-yield savings account, started a Roth IRA, and researched stocks and ETFs that promised steady long-term growth. Each dollar I saved was a reminder that I controlled my life and my future, regardless of my father's mistakes or Sadie's presence. Dad's family tried guilt-tripping me over Zoom calls, sharing stories about Sadie's difficult childhood and insisting that my compassion could heal the family rift. But the more they spoke, the more I realized that my wealth, though modest for a young adult, was my shield. Money wasn't just numbers in an account, it was my independence, my voice, my ability to say no. I declined family events, declined invitations, and instead used that time to educate myself on personal finance, cryptocurrency, and passive income strategies. I was building a life where no one could force me into situations that felt unsafe or toxic. One day, Sadie messaged me through a mutual relative's account. Her words were loaded with faux remorse, a mix of apology and subtle manipulation. "I know we share the same dad, but I wish we could be closer. I've changed, and I want to prove it." I stared at the screen, feeling a momentary pang of anger mixed with something else, curiosity. Could I turn this into an opportunity? I realized I could. Not emotionally, but financially. Instead of letting her harassment dictate my actions, I reached out cautiously, but only with a proposition. "I'm willing to discuss one thing," I typed. "Any future interactions need to include a formal financial plan. If you want to reconcile in any meaningful way, you'll be contributing equally to any shared expenses, family gatherings, or joint investments we might undertake. Otherwise, we stay apart." Her reaction was immediate shock, followed by hesitation. She wasn't expecting boundaries framed in finance. Most people, she realized too late, underestimated how money could protect me as much as it empowered me. For the first time, I felt a strange satisfaction, not from revenge, but from reclaiming control over my life. I had turned a toxic family drama into a lesson about wealth, independence, and personal boundaries. By the end of the year, I had not only maintained my distance from Sadie, but I had grown my investments by 12% through smart asset allocation and careful trading. I had set up emergency funds, automated savings, and even contributed to a charitable fund in my name, learning that financial literacy could provide stability that emotional reconciliation sometimes could not. Dad still hoped for peace. Sadie still hoped for forgiveness, but I no longer waited for either. I focused on what I could control, my choices, my growth, and my wealth. The lesson was clear. Family ties are complicated, but financial independence is absolute. Your money, your investments, your savings, they are your shield and your leverage. And sometimes, protecting your peace requires more than words. It requires a plan. Have you ever had to cut toxic people out of your life and focus on financial independence instead? How did you reclaim your peace and security? If you found this story empowering, hit that subscribe button and join us for more high-stakes family dramas turned into financial lessons. Every week, we break down Reddit's most intense stories with strategies for building wealth, independence, and control in your life. Don't miss out. Your financial freedom starts here.